I had a whole plan for what I was going to talk about when I hit record. And my camera, my stand, everything keeps conspiring against me to try to tell some like pre-planned thing. So going to wing it a little bit more. But my main thing that I wanted to talk about was the state of the industry and where we are, how we got here, and where do we go from here. How we got here, is a perfect storm of things. Mergers, streaming wars, us continuing to be able to work. I'm specifically talking about animation. And the industry just kept growing at a time when other parts of the entertainment industry were collapsing, and other people were having a hard time. And, I couldn't help but think during that time that this was going to come back to bite us at some point. So it's biting us. And I know that there are a lot of young artists that are out there that maybe like came into the industry during the pandemic. There are a lot of older artists who are maybe like wondering, like, am I going to work again? I'm very lucky right now that I have a tiny bit of animation work. But it's not enough to sustain this lavish lifestyle that I lead, where I basically spend all day, every day in the studio doing stuff. Where do we go from here? What do we do now? Whenever I've had a gap, and I've had many gaps, I try to, and it's not always easy, but this is what I try to do, is I try to focus on my own stuff, and aggressively go after my own stuff as though the next job is going to come any day, and then you're not going to have any time to do your own stuff. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now. Like, even though I have a tiny bit of work, it's, not enough to fill the days. So I'm filling my days with my own stuff. And I would really recommend that to any artist, that you don't let yourself be defined by what someone will pay you to do. You're an artist, do art, whatever that is. And it might be that that you need to work outside of animation to get money coming in. You should do that. Like, if you have a secondary skill set, fall back on that secondary skill set. Don't let the economics of animation affect your personal life in that way. Do whatever you need to do, but keep being an artist and keep doing your thing. Don't do pitches. Don't spend time working up a pitch and developing something just to pitch it, because they're not taking original pitches now. You might hear of the odd thing that goes, but I'm willing to bet that odd thing has a creator who's already sold shows before. New ideas being sold is an anomaly right now. Studios only want to, feed on their evergreens, or on their libraries of IP. They want you to come up with ideas for old characters, rather than come up with new characters, because it's cheaper for them to revive an old character. But work on your own stuff. and get it out there into the world in whatever way you can. You know, if it's a character that you've been trying to explore, if it's a story you've been trying to tell, like go tell that story in any way that you can and get it out there into the world in any way that you can. Not saying that you have to, you know, animate a, you know, 15-minute, you know, version of the story. Do a one-page comic. Do a single panel that tells the story. Do a comic strip. You know, the animation is a sequential art form, and those are all other sequential art forms. So try to get it out there like that. Do it for the fans, not for the studios, because the studios don't know what they're doing anymore. And the fans know what they want, and they'll tell you what they want. And where do we go from here? You know, I think that is really us making the decision for ourselves as to what kind of industry we want to be in. And from my point of view, I would rather be in an industry where fans fund the art through Patreon or Kickstarters or that, and individual artists are able to get their own projects out there. They're able to develop their own IP. And, you know, there will come a day when the pendulum will swing from existing library stuff back to original creator-driven animation. And when it does, you will have been working on your own thing this whole time, and you will have the ability to prove that you have an audience for your own thing because you have amassed a following, you know, and it might be small, but it's yours. And it's so much more rewarding creatively to work on your own thing and have people acknowledge your own thing than it is to work on whatever IP that the studio is willing to put out. So that's what I'm doing. I am working on my own comic. This is one of the pages. This is page 20, and I will talk about it more in another video. But just every panel that I do, it is so much more rewarding than anything that I could be doing for the studios. And it's mine, and I don't have to, like, you know, get notes from executives. Yeah, I can just make it. And, you know, is it going to sell to, you know, am I going to make a print run, and is that print run going to sell? I don't know. I can't, like, think about what may or may not happen. I just know that this is a story that I wanted to tell, and, you know, it was a feature film idea that I had a long time ago, that I just want to get out into the world, and so I'm just going to do that, and, you know, take this time to work as hard as I can on my own stuff, as though the next thing is going to come along any day now, and then I'm not going to have any time to work on my own stuff. So I'm trying to see the silver lining in the decline of the industry. You know, I hear a lot of people say that the industry is never going to be what it once was. I don't know that that's a bad thing. You know, I feel like, was it ever really like that great? You know, like when I came into animation, there were still people that thought that they were going to go to Disney Feature and they were going to work there for their whole career, and then they were going to retire from there. And I have to say that I can't think of a time that I've gone to a retirement party for an artist. You know, you just stop getting work. you know, maybe some of the Disney guys that were still doing it when I started, maybe they have retired, and it's just because I wasn't at Disney feature animation, that I didn't see it. But uh, the industry chews you up and spits you out, and the only thing that you can do to combat that is to do your own stuff. The person that I think about the most, when I think about where I'm at, okay, two people. When I think about where I'm at, I think about Bill Peet, who worked as a story guy at Disney in the Golden Age, the original Golden Age. And when the studio kind of was meandering because Walt was more interested in building theme parks than making compelling animation, he left the studio and started writing children's books. And I knew him for that. I didn't know that he had been in animation. I just knew Bill Peet. That was the Bill Peet books. Those were the books that my parents read to us when we were little. And so knowing that he was in animation and left animation because he was disillusioned with the whole process, I find that a little bit inspiring, especially with what's going on right now. So I think of Bill Peet. And I also think about Miyazaki, who was also discontent with the work that was coming his way. And so he did Nausicaa, and it completely changed the trajectory of his career and his life. And, the shows that are happening now, it just seems like recycling of the same stuff that has been happening. And, it's been a while since there's been a show that I've been like actually genuinely inspired by. And right now that show is Arcane. I've watched this show from start to finish, all of the episodes, probably like 4 or 5 times, and keep finding new things in it. I hear people in animation kind of dismiss it as an anomaly, but I think that this is why we can't have nice things, because, when something comes up that's like this, that's so original, people are just like, well, yeah, that's nice for them, but that's not how we all get. But I would rather live in an industry that does the arcane stuff. I'm kind of tired of the industry that keeps redoing the same thing over and over and over again, because that is shown to have a proven track record of making a certain amount of money. It's boring. It's been 30 years. My first job was the Max, and I thought that that's what the industry was going to be, like really cool stuff like that. It has ended up being a lot of like toy driven product, not art. And when I look at Arcane, what I see is a company in Riot Games that decided to go all in on their own IP. They had the money from the game, but you know what? The studios also have the money. They are not broke. And Riot just doubled down and really put their money where their mouth was, put their money where their heart was, and they made the best show, the absolute best show that they could possibly make. And that was the important part, that it was as good as it could possibly be. People will say like, well, it's, we're never going to see those kinds of budgets. But I would rather, believe that that's possible and that we can, live in that world. And so, what I take from Arcane without having the, millions and millions of dollars is that Riot doubled down on their own stuff. So I feel like for us as artists in animation, we need to to do the same thing. We need to double down on our own stuff, and make what we want to make, to create the industry that we want to live in, that we want to work in, that works for us, and not just the studios. So I'm going to do this kind of thing more often, just talking at camera and uploading it. If you have any comments or questions or things you want me to talk about, like mention it in the comments. I don't know that I'll see you every day like this, because, this took a bit of time for me to finally get a full take. But yeah, I'm going to do more of this. I hope you enjoy that. And I will see you again soon.